Welcome to Hidden Truths, where we don't talk about what's easy to hear. We talk about what's been hidden in plain sight. Today's topic? It's going to challenge something you were taught to cherish: gratitude. You've been told, be thankful you even have a job. At least you're not homeless. Other people have it worse. But here's the question no one asks. Who benefits when you stay grateful and stay silent? And why do you feel guilty every time you want more? This is The Debt of Gratitude: How Society Uses Thankfulness to Keep You from Asking for More. An unflinching look at how institutions, workplaces, families, governments have weaponized gratitude to keep you compliant, quiet, and underpaid. If you've ever felt ashamed for wanting more, this video will show you weren't ungrateful. You were being controlled. Let's begin. The beautiful lie of gratitude. You were taught to say thank you before you could even speak in full sentences. A toy handed to you? Say thank you. A meal served to you? Say thank you. A favor done for you? Say thank you. By the time you were old enough to form thoughts about the world, gratitude had already been stitched into your behavior like an invisible thread, so tightly, so repeatedly, that it became second nature, almost sacred. And it is sacred. Gratitude, in its purest form, is powerful. It's what helps us notice beauty in a chaotic world. It's what allows us to pause and feel wonder, humility, connection. It transforms moments into meaning. It grounds us in what we have rather than what we lack. But somewhere along the way, gratitude stopped being a gift and became a leash. The moment gratitude becomes control. Think about this. How many times in your life have you held back from asking for more because a voice in your head whispered, I should just be grateful I even have this? How many times have you swallowed your frustration at being overworked, underpaid, disrespected because someone reminded you, at least you have a job? There it is again, that phrase again. At least. At least you're not homeless. At least you have food. At least someone loves you. At least you didn't fail completely. Those phrases sound like comfort, but they are often disguised weapons. What they really mean is, stay in your place. Stop reaching higher. Don't rock the boat. They don't nurture gratitude. They enforce obedience. When thanks becomes a debt. Here's the sinister part. In many situations, you're not encouraged to feel grateful. You're expected to owe gratitude. And there's a difference. True gratitude is voluntary. It flows from recognition and appreciation. But the gratitude you were trained to express, that's not a feeling. It's a debt. You owe your parents for raising you. You owe your employer for hiring you. You owe your partner for staying with you. You owe the government for letting you live with rights they should have protected anyway. And what happens when you owe someone? You shut up. You tolerate. You comply. You feel like you don't have the right to ask for more. Because debt comes with guilt. And guilt is a far more powerful chain than gratitude ever was. You're not grateful. You're afraid. Look closer. How many people walk around saying, I'm grateful, when they really feel is afraid? Afraid to seem ungrateful. Afraid to be seen as demanding. Afraid that if they speak up, complain, or hope for more, people will say, wow, you're so unthankful. So they shrink. They downplay their pain. They minimize their dreams. They silence their voice. All in the name of gratitude. But gratitude shouldn't make you feel small. It shouldn't come with shame. And yet, it does for millions. The social reward of being grateful. Let's be honest. Society rewards the grateful poor. It celebrates the struggling worker who never complains. The single mother who says, "I'm just thankful I can pay the bills." The employee who stays late and smiles while burning out. The refugee who says thank you for a country that barely acknowledges their humanity. People love a humble, quiet, grateful soul, especially when that soul asks for nothing in return. But the moment that same person demands fair treatment, equal pay, better living conditions, dignity, suddenly they're entitled. Suddenly they've forgotten their place. Suddenly they're ungrateful. That's when you realize gratitude isn't always about appreciation. Sometimes it's about suppression. Gratitude as a tool of hierarchies. Now ask yourself, who benefits when people are told to just be thankful? Not the worker, not the student drowning in debt, not the child afraid to speak against their parent, not the woman being told, "At least he doesn't hit you." The people who benefit most are the ones already in power. Employers benefit when employees feel too thankful to ask for more. Governments benefit when citizens feel too grateful to protest. Families benefit when children feel too indebted to heal their own wounds. In other words, the system loves your gratitude because it keeps you quiet. The culture of not enough. This culture doesn't just whisper, "Be thankful." It also says, wanting more means you're greedy. Speaking up means you're difficult. Leaving means you're disloyal. It plants a story in your head that you're lucky to have anything at all, that other people have it worse, that you should settle. And if you don't, you're shamed, dismissed, punished. Gratitude, once beautiful, becomes a muzzle, a chain, a psychological trap, a quiet rebellion. But here's the truth you've been waiting to hear. You can be grateful and still ask for more. You can appreciate what you have and still know your worth. You can say thank you and still say no. You can feel blessed and still demand better. The two ideas are not opposites. They were just made to seem that way by a world that profits from your silence. Your gratitude was never meant to be a prison, so stop treating it like one. This is your quiet rebellion. You're not ungrateful. You're aware. And that changes everything. Gratitude as emotional conditioning. From the moment you were born, the world didn't just feed you, clothe you, and teach you. It trained you. Not only in how to walk or talk, but in how to feel. Especially how to feel about power, about hierarchy, about your place in the world. And one of the first emotions you were trained to internalize wasn't anger, wasn't pride, wasn't even love. It was gratitude. When gratitude is not taught, it's imposed. It starts early. A toddler is handed a snack. Before they even know the word, they're told, "Say thank you." They don't know what thank you means, but they learn quickly, saying it equals approval. Not saying it equals disapproval. Say thank you, get a smile. Forget to say it, get corrected. That's not education. That's emotional programming. And it works because the brain at that age doesn't filter intent. It absorbs, it obeys, it adapts. So we learn, if I don't show gratitude, even if I don't feel it, I risk disapproval, punishment, disconnection. From that point on, gratitude isn't just a feeling, it becomes a survival strategy. Good kids say thank you. You probably heard this growing up. Be polite. Don't be rude. Say thank you or you'll hurt their feelings. This sounds harmless, right? But what does it actually teach? It teaches that other people's feelings matter more than your authenticity. That even if you feel uncomfortable, overlooked, disrespected, you smile and say thank you anyway. It rewards the appearance of gratitude, not the sincerity of it. And over time, you forget the difference. Gratitude as a form of emotional control. Now, fast forward. You're a teenager. You're starting to see the cracks. You notice when teachers play favorites, when your parents project their pain onto you, when your hard work isn't always recognized. You want to speak up, but what do you hear? You should be grateful you even get to go to school. Do you know how many people would love to have what you have? We sacrificed so much for you, you have no idea. You're not being asked to express gratitude, you're being cornered by it. Because these statements don't inspire connection, they generate guilt. And that guilt, it's the lever of control. It makes you question your own perception. Maybe I am being ungrateful. Maybe I shouldn't complain. Maybe I should just stay quiet. Conditioning through repetition. And this is how it works always. Gratitude is taught as moral. Gratitude is rewarded. Gratitude is used to suppress discomfort. Gratitude becomes a tool to manage rebellion. You're conditioned, day by day, to associate gratitude with emotional safety. And anything that feels like dissatisfaction, even when valid, starts to feel dangerous. The more you internalize this, the more likely you are to accept toxic relationships because at least they love me, to stay in underpaid jobs because at least I have one, to put others first always because I should be thankful for what they've done. You're not a bad person. You've just been programmed to equate gratitude with obedience. The gratitude guilt cycle. Here's the emotional loop they don't teach you about. You feel something's wrong, you try to speak up, you're reminded of what you should be thankful for, you feel guilty for wanting more, you suppress the desire, you call it maturity, humility, or realism, and you repeat. That's not emotional growth, that's emotional conditioning. A loop of learned helplessness disguised as grace. Gratitude and the fear of rejection. Why is this conditioning so powerful? Because deep down, human beings fear one thing more than poverty, failure, or discomfort: being rejected. When we don't show gratitude, especially to those in power, we risk being labeled ungrateful, selfish, disrespectful, hard to love. And for many, those labels are unbearable. So we perform gratitude even when it's hollow, even when it hurts, even when it keeps us in cages we should have broken out of years ago. Emotional conditioning becomes identity. Eventually, this programming doesn't just affect how you act, it shapes who you think you are. You begin to describe yourself like this: I'm just thankful for the little things. I don't like to complain. I don't expect too much from life. It sounds like humility, but often it's fear wearing the mask of peace. You've been taught to reduce yourself, to shrink your needs, to package your silence as virtue. And here's the brutal truth. The more conditioned you are to be grateful for crumbs, the less likely you are to ask for the feast you deserve. Gratitude as an inherited script. It gets worse, because you don't just live by this script, you pass it on. You tell your children you should be grateful. You tell your friends to stop complaining. You tell yourself you're lucky, even as you feel empty. And generation after generation, the emotional conditioning continues, not because people are cruel, but because they were trained the same way. They think they're teaching values, but they're teaching submission. Breaking the pattern starts with one question. Here it is, the question that changes everything. Am I truly grateful, or just afraid to seem ungrateful? Ask yourself that, honestly, quietly, deeply. Ask it about your job, your relationship, your life path, your silence. Because if your gratitude is rooted in fear, then it's not gratitude, it's self-erasure. You were taught to be grateful, so you'd never learn to want. Desire is dangerous in a system built on control, and so they gave you something to contain it: gratitude. They told you it was beautiful, and sometimes it is, but often it's a beautiful lie, tied in ribbons, wrapped in obedience. You can honor the good in your life without becoming a prisoner to it. You can feel gratitude without being ruled by it. You can love and still leave. You can appreciate and still demand. You can thank and still think. Because real gratitude doesn't require silence, and it never asks you to shrink. You should just be thankful. A silencing phrase. You should just be thankful. It sounds harmless, kind even. It's the type of phrase that slips off tongues with ease, used by parents, teachers, bosses, and even strangers online. But if you listen closely, it's not a suggestion, it's not a reminder, it's not even encouragement. It's a command, a muzzle, a warning disguised as wisdom. And once you understand what's really being said, you'll never hear it the same way again. A phrase that ends conversations. Think about when this phrase is used. You speak up for unfair treatment at work? You should just be thankful you have a job. You express discomfort in a relationship? You should just be thankful someone loves you. You mention how tired, broke, or stuck you feel? You should just be thankful for what you have. See the pattern? This phrase is rarely used to lift you up. It's used to shut you down. Not because you're wrong, but because your truth makes other people uncomfortable. What they're really saying. Let's translate "you should just be thankful" into what it really means. Stop complaining. Don't make a fuss. Be quiet. You are not allowed to want more. Accept your place. How dare you feel entitled to something better? It's not a celebration of gratitude. It's a subtle slap, delivered with a smile. Because no one ever says you should just be thankful to people rising, growing, or thriving. It's always said to those trying to break out of something. The weapon of the content majority. This phrase thrives in cultures of conformity. It's used by the content majority, those who have accepted their lot in life and expect you to do the same. They've stopped fighting, so when they see someone who still has the fire, they don't cheer you on, they extinguish you. Not with anger, but with this little phrase, "You should just be thankful." Translation: don't make me question why I settled. Gratitude or guilt? You should just be thankful isn't about gratitude. It's about guilt. It's the guilt that says, other people have it worse. You're being ungrateful for what you've been given. How dare you ask for more when some people have nothing? This kind of guilt doesn't uplift anyone. It doesn't fix inequality. It doesn't empower change. It just keeps people in line. And when enough people accept that guilt as truth, you get a society that celebrates survival but punishes ambition. The myth of "at least." This phrase lives in the same family as another classic line of control. At least you have a roof over your head. At least you're not starving. At least someone loves you. At least it's better than nothing. These phrases compare your pain to someone else's worse pain. as if the only way to justify your suffering is to find someone who's suffering more. But here's the truth. Your pain doesn't have to win a competition to be valid. You don't have to be bleeding to deserve a bandage. You don't have to be homeless to feel stuck. You don't have to be starving to want more than scraps. Pain is not a race, and neither is growth. Why it's so effective? You should just be thankful works because it hits the emotional core of people who were raised to please. People who were told, don't be difficult, don't make problems, be a good kid, be polite, don't make others feel bad. So when they finally find the courage to ask for more, and someone throws that phrase at them, they freeze, they doubt, they shrink, they retreat, and the world applauds their maturity when really it just silenced another voice. Gratitude doesn't cancel injustice. Let's be clear, you can be grateful and still recognize unfairness. You can appreciate what you have and still ask for more. You can love someone and still call out the harm they've done. You can respect your job and still demand a raise. You can feel blessed and still push for better. Gratitude isn't meant to replace justice. It's meant to walk beside it. Anyone who tells you that gratitude should silence your voice isn't trying to help you. They're trying to control you. When you're told to be thankful for the bare minimum. Sometimes this phrase shows up in the most insulting way. You report mistreatment at work, and they say, "At least we didn't fire you." You endure disrespect in a relationship, and hear, "At least I'm still here." You struggle with mental health and are told, "At least you're not in a hospital." That's not love. That's manipulation. You don't owe anyone gratitude for giving you the bare minimum of decency. You don't have to perform thankfulness to deserve respect. You don't have to beg to be treated like a person. Breaking the spell. So what do the next time someone says, "You should just be thankful"? You pause, you breathe, and you ask yourself, is this person trying to uplift me or shut me down? Is my desire for more coming from entitlement or from growth? Am I being unreasonable or just finally honest? Most of the time you'll realize you're not being ungrateful. You're being awake. And that's dangerous to people who want things to stay the same. Rewriting the script. Here's what no one told you growing up. You don't have to prove your gratitude by suffering quietly. You don't have to trade your voice for permission. You don't have to accept a life that barely fits just because someone said you should be thankful. You can be thankful and still walk away. You can be thankful and still speak out. You can be thankful and still say, "This isn't enough." Because gratitude that keeps you stuck is not gratitude. It's fear wearing a smile. And you don't owe fear anything. How employers use gratitude to suppress raises. You walk into the office early. You stay late. You take on extra projects, cover for teammates, skip breaks, meet deadlines. You've done all the things a grateful employee is supposed to do. And when review season comes, you expect at least a conversation about a raise. But instead, you hear this: "We really appreciate your hard work. You're such a team player. We're lucky to have you." Translation: we'll use gratitude to flatter you, so we don't have to pay you. The performance of praise. Modern employers have mastered a trick older than capitalism itself, replacing real compensation with emotional tokens. They give praise instead of promotions, recognition instead of raises, perks instead of power, culture instead of contracts. and they wrap it all in the language of gratitude. We're thankful for you. You're such a team player. We're lucky to have you. It sounds beautiful, but what it really means is, we know you deserve more, but we'd rather not pay for it. How gratitude becomes a paywall. Here's how it works. They create a culture where people are expected to be grateful just to have a job. They idolize loyalty and sacrifice, especially from those who don't ask for much. They stigmatize ambition, painting it as selfish or disruptive. They reward silence, not results. And they shame those who advocate for themselves as entitled. It's not an accident, it's not a misunderstanding, it's a system. And the cornerstone of that system, weaponized gratitude. The language of manipulation. Let's decode some of the common phrases used in workplace manipulation. This company is like a family. Translation? We expect emotional loyalty, but we won't treat you like blood when cuts come. We're all in this together. Translation? Your sacrifice is expected, but the rewards won't be equally shared. Be thankful you have job security. Translation? Don't ask for more or you'll lose what little you have. Money isn't everything. Translation? We're not going to pay you what you're worth. These phrases create a false sense of community, not to uplift you, but to extract more from you without paying for it. Gratitude as a control mechanism. Many companies don't need to say no to your raise request. They've trained you not to ask in the first place. They create an environment where talking about money is taboo. Salary transparency is discouraged. Negotiating is seen as disloyal. Questioning leadership is framed as ungratefulness. So what do employees do? They internalize the message. They think, maybe now's not the right time. I should just be thankful I have work. I don't want to seem greedy. Next year might be better. And the company smiles because the programming is working. You silence yourself, and they save money. Loyalty without leverage. Let's be clear. Loyalty is not a bad thing. Commitment, passion, teamwork, these are admirable traits. But in a one-sided system, loyalty becomes leverage against you. You're told to give your best while leadership gives you the minimum. You're told to be part of something bigger while your labor props up profits you never share. You're told to care deeply about people who won't remember your name once you leave. And when you finally get tired of being overlooked, they say, "We thought you were happy here. Why are you being so ungrateful?" Thankful employees make excellent targets. Companies love employees who don't ask for much. They're called low maintenance, easy to manage, reliable. But what they really are is overloaded, undercompensated, and taught to mistake exhaustion for purpose. If you're always the one saying yes, if you're always thankful just to be here, then you become the ideal person to take advantage of. And the more you give, the less they feel the need to compensate you, because your gratitude becomes proof of your compliance. How they guilt you out of asking for more. Let's say you finally speak up. You say, "I believe I've earned a raise." And what do they say? "You should be proud just to have this job in today's economy. Let's revisit this next quarter. If we gave everyone a raise, the business couldn't survive. You're doing great, don't ruin a good thing." They make it sound like your ambition is a threat, not just to them, but to the team, to morale, to the company itself. They frame your request as selfish, when in truth, your value has already outgrown your paycheck. The cost of being too grateful. The longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to leave. You think, I owe them. They gave me my start. They took a chance on me. They've been good to me. But ask yourself, has that goodness been mutual? Have you grown in pay or only in pressure? Have you been promoted or just handed more responsibilities without compensation? Being grateful while being undervalued isn't loyalty. It's self-betrayal. And it's exactly what they're counting on. Flip the script. Gratitude without sacrifice. You can be a great employee and still negotiate your worth. You can appreciate the opportunity and still outgrow the salary. You can love the mission and still demand a raise. In fact, that's the healthiest kind of gratitude, the one that says, "Thank you for this space, and I'm ready to be compensated fairly within it." Because real gratitude doesn't mean you give endlessly. It means you honor your value so others learn to honor it too. What happens when you finally ask? It's scary. It might feel like a betrayal, like you're disrupting a delicate balance. But here's what actually happens when you speak up. You gain clarity. If they shut you down, you see their true priorities. You build strength. Each time you ask, it gets easier. You open doors. Even if they say no, you've reminded them you're no longer asleep. You set standards for yourself and for others watching. You stop being the grateful one. You become the respected one. And there's a big difference. You can outgrow a place that gave you your start. Never forget, gratitude is not a contract. It's not a leash. It's not a lifetime of silence. It's okay to thank the job that gave you your start and then leave it for the one that pays you what you're worth. It's okay to appreciate the lessons and still demand the raise. It's okay to be human, but still refuse to be cheap labor in a system built on your fear of being ungrateful. Because the longer you wait, the louder they'll praise you for stalling, and the quieter they'll be about why you're still being paid the same. The government's favorite tool, grateful citizens. You were told to love your country, to stand during the anthem, to salute the flag, to say thank you for your freedom. But here's the question. Why do you have to say thank you for something that should have been yours all along? Why do governments make such a big deal out of freedom when most people don't feel free at all? Because in truth, freedom isn't given, it's framed. And the best way to keep people from questioning that illusion is to teach them to feel grateful for it. Manufacturing gratitude for the bare minimum. Let's start here. Do you have the right to vote? Be thankful. Do you have clean water? Be thankful. Do you have roads and electricity? Be thankful. Are you not in a war zone? Be thankful. Can you speak freely, but only within limits? Be thankful. But think carefully. Are these blessings or basic human rights? Should you be thankful for them, or should you expect them? This is the trap. When governments frame fundamental needs as generous gifts, they create gratitude where there should be accountability. The grateful citizen is the quiet citizen. Governments don't want angry citizens. They don't want curious ones either. They want grateful citizens. Why? Because a grateful citizen doesn't ask too many questions, doesn't protest loudly, doesn't demand more, doesn't look too closely at corruption, doesn't unite with others to change the system. They smile. They say, "We're lucky compared to other countries." They nod along when the leaders say, "We're doing our best." And even when they suffer, they're told, "At least you're free." Patriotism and gratitude are a deliberate confusion. Let's make something clear. Loving your country is not the same as being blind to its flaws. But that's not what you were taught. You were taught that if you criticize the government, you're ungrateful, you're unpatriotic, you hate your country, you don't appreciate what you have. This isn't accidental. It's emotional blackmail. It keeps people silent by shaming them for wanting better. And the weapon they use is gratitude. National holidays and manufactured pride. Ever notice how often governments celebrate themselves? Independence Day, Constitution Day, National Gratitude Month, Veteran Appreciation Week, Unity Day, National Remembrance Ceremonies. On the surface, these events honor sacrifice, tradition, unity. But underneath, many of them serve a quiet purpose: to flood the public with emotional loyalty right before they remember their frustrations. If you're too busy waving a flag, you might forget your rent is too high, that healthcare is unaffordable, that corruption scandals are buried in news cycles, that you work 3 jobs and still can't breathe. National pride is powerful, but when it's forced, it's propaganda. And when it's laced with mandatory gratitude, it becomes a distraction from dysfunction. The silence of survival. In many places, people don't speak out not because they don't see the problem, but because they've been told to be grateful they're not in jail, or dead, or worse. They've been conditioned to believe that simply surviving in a broken system is a privilege, that having less oppression than somewhere else equals freedom, that if you dare question your government, you're spoiled, or entitled, or even a traitor. And slowly, gratitude replaces resistance. We gave you democracy. What more do you want? This is one of the most common tricks in modern governance, framing the right to participate as a gift instead of a guarantee. They say, "We let you vote. Be thankful. You can speak freely within limits. Be thankful. You can criticize us. Be thankful we haven't silenced you. Other countries don't have what you have. Be grateful we're not them." But this logic is dangerous. It trains citizens to lower the bar for justice, to tolerate small freedoms while massive inequalities remain untouched. It shifts the focus from what could be better to what isn't worse. And in that space of comparison, change dies. The grateful poor versus the demanding poor. In society, you'll notice this distinction. The poor who smile, endure, and don't protest, they're praised as resilient, humble, grateful. The poor who organize, strike, and demand change, they're called angry, dangerous, radical, entitled. The first group is celebrated. The second group is silenced. Not because they're wrong, but because they refuse to play the gratitude game. They know that gratitude shouldn't be a muzzle, that dignity doesn't require permission, that justice begins where silence ends. Gratitude and fear go hand in hand. In some nations, citizens show gratitude not because they feel safe, but because they know what happens when they don't. They smile in public. They recite the national slogans. They say the right things, because they've seen what happens to those who don't. Arrests, surveillance, disappearances, public shame campaigns, online threats, character assassination. So the gratitude becomes a mask, a performance, a shield, not because they love the system, but because the system demands to be loved. How the system teaches you to shame others, Once you've internalized this gratitude conditioning, you don't just stay silent. You start to police others. Don't complain. You're lucky to live here. At least you're not in a dictatorship. You should be thankful our country isn't like them. Stop whining and appreciate what you have. Without realizing it, you become a mouthpiece for the machine, a defender of the very system that keeps you small. And you convince others, especially the young, that to be loud is to be ungrateful, that to question is to betray, that to want more is to insult your ancestors. But here's the truth. The greatest way to honor those before you is to make things better for those after you, not to bow your head and repeat the same chains wrapped in a thank you note. The power of a citizen who asks. What happens when people stop saying thank you and start saying, why not more? Change happens. History has never been shaped by the silent grateful. It's been shaped by the brave ungrateful, by the protesters, by the truth tellers, by the marchers, by the whistleblowers, by those who loved their country enough to demand more of it. Because real love isn't blind, and real gratitude isn't obedience. It's knowing what you're worth and refusing to settle for anything less. Gratitude in family systems, when love comes with a debt. You didn't choose your family, but from the moment you were born, you were told that you owe them everything. Your life, your home, your meals, your clothes, your safety, your very breath. And so, somewhere between the bedtime stories and the shouted warnings, you learned a dangerous equation. Love equals debt. Care equals obedience. Gratitude equals silence. The phrase that starts it all. You should be grateful. I gave you everything. Every child hears it, but not every child understands what it means at first. It sounds like a reminder. It sounds like love. But with time, it begins to feel like something else, a chain. Because once a parent says that, once they place your very existence on a scale, you're no longer just a child. You're an emotional debtor. When love comes with receipts. In healthy families, love is a gift. It flows without conditions. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't demand repayment. But in many homes, love comes with receipts. We fed you. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. We gave up our dreams so you could live yours. These statements are not inherently false. They're not even always cruel. But they become cruel when they're used as leverage. When every choice you make is measured against how much you owe the people who raised you. It's not parenting, it's emotional bookkeeping. The unspoken contract. Here's what you were never told, but always felt. I gave you life, so now you live it the way I approve. I raised you, so now you don't get to walk away from me. I cared for you, so now your independence is betrayal. That's the unspoken contract. And if you dare to tear it up, if you choose your own truth, your own voice, your own path, you'll be told, after everything I've done for you, which is code for, how dare you stop being who I needed you to be? Gratitude or guilt? In the name of respect, many people bury their identity. They don't choose the career they want. They don't marry the person they love. They don't move to the place that calls to them. They don't speak the truth they feel deep in their gut. Why? Because they were raised on a diet of guilt disguised as gratitude. They believe, if I leave, I'm abandoning them. If I disagree, I'm ungrateful. If I heal, I'm disrespecting their pain. But here's the truth: no one gives you permission to say. You can love your family and still walk away. You can appreciate their sacrifice and still refuse to sacrifice yourself. You can be grateful for the roof they gave you and still build your own house. The fear of being the bad child. So many adults are still just children in grown-up bodies, afraid to upset their parents, afraid to be seen as selfish, afraid to say, "That hurt me. I don't agree. I want a different life." They fear being labeled ungrateful, cold, disrespectful, a disappointment. And so, instead of growing, they shrink. Instead of healing, they hide. Instead of living, they perform. All to avoid the greatest sin in some families: daring to be different. The myth of the selfless parent. Many parents do sacrifice. They work long hours. They give up comfort. They live through hardship. They pour everything into their children. But some do it with strings attached. And here's the hard truth: if your love comes with conditions, then it's not love. It's a transaction. If your care becomes a weapon when your child grows up and makes their own choices, then your sacrifice was never selfless. It was a down payment on control. Real love doesn't keep score. Real love doesn't haunt you with guilt. Real love doesn't say, "You owe me your happiness." The weight of cultural expectations. In many cultures, especially collectivist ones, gratitude toward family isn't just encouraged, it's required. The rules sound like this: family comes first. You don't shame your parent. Your success belongs to the family. You honor your elders with obedience. But when these values are enforced with guilt, silence, and shame, they don't create unity. They create emotional imprisonment. You become afraid to pursue joy, afraid to say no, afraid to live for yourself. And when you finally do, you're accused of forgetting where you came from. But honoring your roots should never require you to cut off your wings. The cost of staying grateful. People stay in toxic family dynamics for years, decades, because of this one feeling: gratitude. They don't confront abuse. They don't set boundaries. They don't choose healing. They endure, and endure, and endure. And the world applauds them for being loyal, when in reality, they're just afraid to be free. Because freedom from guilt means rewriting everything you've been told. It means saying, "I love you, but I won't be manipulated. I respect you, but I need space. I am thankful, but I won't live a life that isn't mine." That's not betrayal. That's self-respect. Gratitude doesn't mean you owe your parents your silence. It doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean surrendering your identity. It doesn't mean becoming their emotional caretaker for life. It doesn't mean staying small so they feel big. You are allowed to outgrow their pain. You are allowed to dream bigger than they did. You are allowed to want a life they don't understand. And you don't have to apologize for it. Loving from a distance. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave. Not out of spite, not out of hate, but because some people only learn to love you when they can no longer control you. Distance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself too. And for the first time, you are choosing to be grateful for your life, not just theirs. Gratitude versus guilt, the psychological trap. Gratitude is beautiful. Guilt is corrosive, but somewhere along the way, the two got confused. You thought you were being thankful, but what you were really feeling was guilt wrapped in gold foil. Because here's the trap they don't talk about. When you've been taught that asking for more means you're ungrateful, you stop asking, not because you're content, but because you feel ashamed for wanting. When gratitude is genuine. Let's begin here. Real gratitude is peaceful. It makes you breathe deeper. It humbles you. It connects you with the present. It opens your heart. You look at your life, not through comparison, not through fear, but through clarity. You feel thankful without feeling small. You feel content without losing your voice. You feel whole without shrinking your dreams. That's the healthy kind of gratitude. It uplifts, it frees, it empowers. When gratitude turns to guilt. But guilt is different. It's heavy. It's anxious. It lives in your chest like a quiet scream. Guilt doesn't whisper, "You have enough." It whispers, "You don't deserve more." Guilt doesn't comfort you. It punishes you. And when society, family, employers, or even religion teach you that wanting more equals being ungrateful, you start to believe it. You confuse guilt for gratitude, and suddenly your dreams feel dirty. Your ambition feels shameful. Your voice feels selfish. That's not growth. That's emotional captivity. The signs you're living in guilt, not gratitude. How do you know the difference? Look at how your gratitude feels. If it inspires action, it's likely real. If it silences you, it's likely guilt. If it lifts your mood, it's likely real. If it makes you anxious to speak up, it's likely guilt. If it feels spacious, it's likely gratitude. If it feels like a weight, it's guilt pretending to be gratitude. Now ask yourself, do I stay in situations longer than I should because I'm lucky to be here? Do I avoid asking for help because others have it worse? Do I feel uncomfortable dreaming of more even when I'm unfulfilled? Do I constantly remind myself not to complain even when something is wrong? If yes, then what you've been calling gratitude is actually guilt conditioning. The guilt feedback loop. Here's how the cycle works. You feel a desire for something more. Freedom, money, peace, rest, respect. That desire clashes with the voice in your head, "You should be grateful." Instead of acting on your need, you judge yourself. That judgment becomes guilt. To soothe the guilt, you try to feel grateful again. The gratitude doesn't feel authentic because you're still unfulfilled. You feel more guilt for not being able to feel truly grateful. The cycle repeats. Desire, guilt, suppression. Repeat. It's not gratitude, it's self-censorship. And over time, it creates emotional exhaustion that feels like numbness. Why guilt is easier to control than anger. There's a reason institutions prefer you feel guilty instead of angry. Angry people protest. Angry people walk away. Angry people speak up. Angry people organize. But guilty people? They blame themselves. They shrink. They stay. They suffer quietly. They tell themselves, "I should just be grateful." That's why this psychological trap is so effective. You don't even realize it's a trap. because you locked the cage yourself. The inner conflict no one sees. There's a war happening inside millions of people every day. A battle between two voices. The deserving voice. I know I'm meant for more. I want to grow. I want to live fully. The guilt voice. How dare you want that? You should be grateful. You're being selfish. Stop being dramatic. Guess which one wins most of the time? The second one. Not because it's stronger, but because you've heard it longer. From parents, from culture, from school, from religious leaders, from friends who settled and expect you to do the same. That voice is now your own voice, and it keeps you small. The truth about wanting more. Wanting more doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're human. You can be thankful for your job and still want one that aligns with your soul. You can appreciate your partner and still desire deeper connection. You can love your life and still outgrow it. You can be proud of what you've built and still crave something bigger. That's not greed, that's growth. If a tree stopped growing just because it was grateful for its roots, it would rot. You're not here to rot. You're here to evolve. The freedom in separating the two. What if you gave yourself permission to feel gratitude and desire at the same time? What if you stopped apologizing for your hunger? What if you understood that real gratitude says, "Thank you, and I'm still going. Thank you, and I want more. Thank you, but this isn't the end of my story." What if your love for life made you want to expand it, not shrink into it? This is where the trap breaks. When you separate guilt from gratitude, you reclaim your inner compass. You stop navigating life based on fear of judgment and start choosing based on truth. You are allowed to outgrow what you once were grateful for. Here's something no one tells you. You're allowed to walk away from what you once were grateful for. That job that gave you stability. That friend who once saved you. That relationship that once felt like everything. That belief system that once made sense. Gratitude doesn't mean permanent loyalty. It means you saw the good, honored it, and now move forward. Growth is not betrayal. It's a continuation. You don't need to feel guilty for changing. You only need to feel honest. The final question. So ask yourself, is this gratitude or is it guilt disguised as virtue? Because one will build you, the other will bury you. One will make you shine, the other will make you shrink. And your life, your real life, begins the moment you stop calling guilt humility and start calling your desires valid. False gratitude in education and religion. You were taught to say thank you at school, to bow your head at church, to show respect to your teachers, your priests, your elders. But what if the very systems that taught you to be grateful were the same ones that trained you not to question them? What if you weren't being educated, were spiritually guided, but slowly conditioned to be obedient? The curriculum of compliance. From your first day at school, the message was clear. Raise your hand before you speak. Sit still. Stay quiet. Obey the bell. Obey the teacher. Don't question, memorize, recite, forget, move on. And when you succeeded at this formula, you were rewarded with gold stars, with praise, with privileges, with approval. And what were you told? Be grateful for your education. Grateful for what? A system that teaches you how to follow, but not how to lead. How to conform, but not how to think. How to absorb, but not how to challenge. The hidden lesson in school: don't question authority. We pretend school is about knowledge, but often it's about hierarchy. The teacher is right. The textbook is truth. The grade defines you. The system is sacred. Your opinion is secondary. You're taught what to think, not how to think. You're taught obedience, not intelligence. And when you feel restless, curious, rebellious, they label it disrespect, attitude, lack of gratitude. But what they really mean is, you're thinking too much. Be quiet and be thankful. The debt of education. You should be grateful you get to go to school. That sentence alone has silenced generations. Yes, access to education is a privilege in many parts of the world. But what's the cost of that education? In some places, students graduate with mountains of debt. They learn how to take tests, not how to live. They're pushed into careers that destroy their joy. They're never taught about money, power, mental health, or purpose. Yet they're told, you're lucky to have this degree. You should be grateful for your diploma. And so they never question why they feel so lost with a certificate in their hand and nothing in their heart. When religion becomes a cage. Now let's turn to faith. Real spirituality brings freedom, connection, compassion, stillness, courage. But organized religion, in many places, has done something else. It turned God into guilt. It told you, you are broken, you are sinful, you are unworthy, you are lucky God still loves you. You should be grateful you're not burning in hell. And with that foundation, it taught you to obey, not out of love, but out of fear. Gratitude used as control in religion. Have you heard these before? Be thankful Jesus died for you. God gave you life, don't waste it. You're lucky to be chosen. Don't question God's plan. You should be grateful for your suffering, it's a test. These sound holy, but often they're emotional chains. They imply you owe God your silence. You owe the church your devotion. You owe your pastor your trust. You owe your religion your identity. Even when something feels wrong, even when you're in pain, even when the leaders abuse their power, you're told, be grateful you have faith. The shame of spiritual doubt. What happens when you start asking the hard questions? Why does religion shame women? Why does the church protect abusers? Why do I feel judged instead of loved? Why do I feel more afraid of God than connected to Him? These are the questions of an awakened soul. But instead of answers, you're often met with, you lack faith. You're rebellious. You're ungrateful for the truth you've been given. And just like in school, the system doesn't reward your mind, it punishes your curiosity. Gratefulness versus indoctrination. There's a difference between being grateful for knowledge and being afraid to reject misinformation. There's a difference between being thankful for guidance and being forced to accept spiritual abuse. Real education invites you to think. Real faith
invites you to question. But when either system teaches you, you should just be thankful. They're not helping you grow, they're keeping you small. The cost of false gratitude. What's the real danger of all this? When you confuse false gratitude for truth, you stay in belief systems that harm you, follow paths that don't fulfill you, obey leaders who don't deserve your trust, silence your doubts because they feel like sin, apologize for outgrowing your past, carry guilt for simply waking up. False gratitude doesn't make you holy, it makes you hollow. And systems, whether academic or spiritual, profit from your silence. The courage to be ungrateful. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is say, "I don't agree. This doesn't make sense. This teaching doesn't resonate with me. I'm grateful for what I learned, but I'm walking away now." That's not arrogance. That's not rebellion. That's spiritual maturity. Because gratitude should be a doorway to wisdom, not a deadbolt on your soul. What true gratitude looks like. You can be grateful for a teacher and still question what they taught. You can be thankful for church community and still reject outdated dogma. You can love the people who raised you and still walk your own path to truth. Because true gratitude is not about submission. It's about recognizing value and then choosing your direction from there. You are not here to worship systems. You are here to wake up.
The cost of staying grateful. Gratitude sounds harmless, beautiful even. But what does it cost you when it's used to hold you back? The truth is, every time you say, "I should just be thankful," instead of, "I deserve more," you pay a price. Sometimes it's invisible, sometimes it's slow, but it always comes. Because staying grateful, when it becomes your excuse to stay silent, stuck, or small, is not noble. It's expensive. The price you pay in time. Time is the one thing you can never get back. And when you stay too long in a situation because at least it's something, you lose years. Years in the wrong job. Years in the wrong relationship. Years in the wrong city, the wrong belief, the wrong version of yourself. You call it gratitude, but what you're really doing is postponing your life. And the clock doesn't care how humble you were. It just keeps ticking. The price you pay in identity. The longer you perform thankfulness to avoid conflict, the more distant you become from your true self. You lose your voice, your preferences, your dreams, your fire. Because every time you silence yourself to seem grateful, you reinforce the message, "My needs don't matter." Eventually, you can't even tell the difference between what you want and what you've tolerated for too long. You become a version of yourself that is quiet, agreeable, and dying inside. The price you pay in relationships. You think staying silent keeps the peace, that being grateful for what they've done for you is enough reason to stay. But it's not. Because relationships that demand constant gratitude usually offer conditional love. And when you stay to repay a debt no one ever let you finish paying, you begin to fade. You give and give and give until all that's left is resentment wearing a smile. That's not loyalty. That's the price you pay in career and purpose.
How many people are stuck in careers that drain them, but they stay because this company gave me my first break? At least I have benefits. I should be thankful I'm not unemployed. So they suppress the truth that they've outgrown it, that they dread Mondays, that they secretly dream of something more. But dreams deferred turn into bitterness, and gratitude becomes the justification for fear disguised as contentment. Eventually, you don't just hate the job, you hate yourself for staying. The cost of missed potential. The scariest cost of staying grateful? Never becoming who you were meant to be. When gratitude becomes a cage, you stop evolving. You live in a box that gets smaller every year. You trade potential for predictability. You trade calling for comfort. You trade impact for invisibility. And the worst part? You convince yourself it's maturity. But deep down, something aches. Not for more money, not for more praise, but for alignment, for freedom, for self-honor. The emotional cost, bitterness in disguise. No one talks about the bitterness that lives inside the grateful. They seem fine. They smile. They say the right things. But underneath, they're exhausted. They feel invisible. They secretly resent the people they thank every day. Because when gratitude is forced, it turns into resentment over time. And that resentment doesn't go away. It leaks into your health, into your sleep, into your energy, into your relationships, into your faith. Until one day, you wake up and realize you weren't being grateful. You were being trained to tolerate less. How society profits from your silence. When you stay grateful and small, the system wins. Employers keep labor cheap. Governments keep people quiet. Religious institutions keep followers obedient. And families keep generational wounds buried. And all they have to say is, you should be thankful. And you, being the good, humble person you are, nod along. But the cost? They get peace. They get power. You lose your life. False gratitude teaches you to accept the bare minimum. Here's the bitter truth. If you thank someone for breadcrumbs, they'll never offer you a feast. If you act satisfied with scraps, no one thinks you're hungry. If you act like you don't need more, no one gives you more. And it's not because you don't deserve it. It's because you stopped asking. You don't owe your life to anyone. Let this land deeply. You do not owe your entire life to the people who gave you something once. Not your boss, not your parents, not your partner, not your past, not your God. Yes, be grateful, but don't let that obligation become ownership. You are allowed to move on. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to outgrow the people, places, and systems that gave you your start. That's not betrayal. That's evolution. So the final trade, you trade years of your life for the comfort of not seeming ungrateful. You trade your voice for approval. You trade your growth for familiarity. You trade freedom for a thank you. And in the end, what do you get? A life that looks good on paper. A life that earns praise from others. A life that feels hollow. Because no one else can live your life. Only you can pay its cost. And only you can decide when the price is too high. Why you're not ungrateful, you're undervalued. You've been told to be thankful again and again. So much so that every time you feel discontent, every time you want more, every time you say, this isn't enough, that old voice echoes in your mind. You're being ungrateful. But what if you're not? What if what you're feeling isn't selfishness, but a signal? What if your dissatisfaction isn't a flaw in your character, but a reflection of how deeply you've been undervalued? Because here's the truth they don't want you to realize. You are not ungrateful. You are underseen, undersupported, and undercelebrated. The lie of enough. They tell you, be happy with what you have. At least you're not like them. Others have it worse. This is just how life is. But that's not the voice of wisdom. That's the voice of a system designed to make you settle, to make you feel like asking for more means something's wrong with you. But what if nothing is wrong with you? What if what's wrong is the fact that you've been in the wrong place all along? They praise you just enough to keep you quiet. Maybe they compliment your loyalty, but never promote you. Maybe they admire your strength, but never asked what it cost you. Maybe they say, you're such a good daughter, but only when you're doing what they want. Maybe they applaud your humility because it means you'll never demand what you deserve. You're not being seen, you're being used. And the worst part is they made you feel guilty for noticing. The voice inside you is not entitlement, it's awareness. You feel it, don't you? That small inner voice saying, I'm worth more than this. I don't feel safe here. I deserve better. This isn't what I dreamed of. And then almost immediately, the guilt floods in. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that awareness equals arrogance, that wanting equals entitlement, that questioning equals betrayal. But no, that voice inside you, it's not rebellion, it's not greed, it's truth. It's the part of you that remembers who you are before the world taught you to be less. When you're undervalued, you internalize it. The danger of being undervalued for too long is this. Eventually, you start to believe it's your actual worth. You think, maybe I don't deserve a raise. Maybe I'm too emotional. Maybe I am selfish for leaving. Maybe I expect too much. And that's how the world wins, not by chaining you physically, but by making you question your own enoughness. That's not gratitude. That's programmed self-doubt. Gratitude shouldn't come at the cost of self-worth. Let this be clear. You can be grateful, but still say, I deserve to be paid fairly. I deserve to be spoken to with respect. I deserve space to rest, heal, and grow. I deserve a life that reflects who I really am. Gratitude becomes toxic when it's used to keep you below your own value, when it makes you tolerate what you once would have walked away from, when it turns your pain into a badge of honor instead of a sign for change. You can be grateful for the chapter and still close the book. Yes, maybe that job gave you experience. Maybe that relationship gave you memories. Maybe that belief system gave you identity. But now, you've outgrown it. You've evolved. You see things more clearly. And that's not ungrateful. That's called alignment. You don't have to destroy the past, but you do have to stop living inside it. You were never meant to stay small. You were taught to say thank you, be polite, don't ask for too much, don't make others uncomfortable, be realistic, be content. But deep down, you've always felt the disconnect, because the truth is, you are not here to shrink into gratitude. You are here to expand into your purpose. You're not here to just be grateful for breadcrumbs. You're here to bake your own bread, then share it with others who've been starving. Undervalued doesn't mean underqualified. Let's say this louder. Just because they didn't see your worth doesn't mean it isn't there. You were overlooked, not untalented. You were ignored, not unworthy. You were silenced, not inarticulate. You were dismissed, not disposable. Sometimes people don't see your value because they benefit from pretending it's not there. But your worth is not determined by who fails to recognize it. It's determined by you when you finally choose to honor it. You are allowed to reclaim yourself. You can stop explaining. You can stop apologizing. You can stop justifying your desire to grow, rest, earn more, be more. You don't need a permission slip to evolve. You don't need a round of applause to walk away. You don't need someone else's validation to believe in your own value. You are not ungrateful. You are not selfish. You are remembering who you are and refusing to settle for the version of yourself they were comfortable with. The new definition of gratitude. What if gratitude sounded like this? I'm thankful for who I was and excited for who I'm becoming. I appreciate the journey, and I'm still moving forward. I honor the lessons, but I'm not staying in the classroom forever. I'm grateful for what they gave, but I'm building something of my own now. That's not disrespect. That's growth with grace. That's not entitlement. That's embodied self-worth. That's not being ungrateful. That's being awake.
Healthy gratitude versus weaponized gratitude. Gratitude is not the enemy. But what we've been taught to call gratitude often isn't real. It's not peace. It's not joy. It's not clarity. It's compliance. It's guilt. It's fear in a beautiful disguise. That's why we need to draw a bold line between two very different things. Healthy gratitude, the kind that empowers, heals, expands. Weaponized gratitude, the kind that silences, controls, and confines. Because until you can tell the difference, you'll keep mistaking your own suppression as a sign of maturity. What is healthy gratitude? Healthy gratitude is a state of awareness, not obligation. It's rooted in freedom. It sounds like this: I appreciate what I've been given, without losing sight of what I deserve. I'm thankful for the past, but I still move forward. I'm aware of my blessings, and I'm also aware of my boundaries. I feel deeply connected to what's good, and I still want to grow. Healthy gratitude does not demand you shrink, stay silent, sacrifice joy, betray your intuition, worship your pain. Instead, it creates space for peace, ambition, reflection, momentum, self-respect. It lets you be fully alive, not half asleep and smiling. What is weaponized gratitude? Weaponized gratitude is something else entirely. It's not a feeling, it's a tactic. It sounds like, you should be grateful I even helped you. At least you have a job, stop complaining. Be thankful you weren't treated worse. People have it harder than you, you're lucky. After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Weaponized gratitude shows up when someone wants you to stay quiet, wants to guilt-trip you into obedience, wants to avoid accountability, wants to make your desire for more look like betrayal. It's not about love, it's about control. Side by side, the key differences. Let's make the difference crystal clear. Healthy gratitude, chosen freely, brings peace, encourages growth, honors your voice, recognizes context, based on truth. Weaponized gratitude, imposed upon you, creates guilt, enforces obedience,
silences your voice, ignores your reality, based on fear. One sets you free, the other holds you hostage. Examples from everyday life. Let's look at how this plays out in different areas. In family, healthy. I'm thankful for how you raised me, and now I'll live life on my own terms. Weaponized. After all I did for you, how could you live so far away from us? In work, healthy. I appreciate the opportunity. Now let's talk about fair compensation. Weaponized. We gave you this job when no one else would. Why are you asking for more? In religion, healthy. I'm grateful for my faith. It brings me peace. Weaponized. You should be thankful God hasn't punished you. In relationships, healthy. I value what we've shared, but I'm no longer happy here. Weaponized. You should be grateful anyone loves you at all. These aren't just words. They're psychological weapons disguised as moral high ground. Why weaponized gratitude works? It taps into your deepest fears. The fear of being seen as ungrateful. The fear of losing what you little have. The fear of hurting someone you care about. The fear of being judged, shunned, or unloved. So instead of setting boundaries, you bite your tongue. Instead of walking away, you stay and shrink. Instead of speaking up, you say thank you and die a little inside. And the world claps because you're playing the role they wrote for you. The grateful one, the humble one, the obedient one. But what they never told you was this: you can be grateful and still say no. The emotional toll of getting it wrong. When you confuse weaponized gratitude with healthy gratitude, you stay too long in places you've outgrown, tolerate abuse thinking it's strength, silence your truth to protect someone else's comfort, miss opportunities because you're afraid to seem ungrateful, let guilt masquerade as goodness. Over time, that doesn't make you wiser. It makes you wither, not from the outside, but from within. Red flags to watch for. Here's how to know when someone's reminding you to be grateful, but really trying to manipulate you. Their version of gratitude always benefits them, not you. They use your past blessings to dismiss your current pain. They only mention what they've done for you when you start asserting yourself. They praise your thankfulness, but get angry when you set a boundary. They use words like should, oh, or after everything I've done. These are not reminders. These are emotional shackles. Reclaiming your right to both gratitude and boundaries. Let this be your new truth. You can be thankful for what life gave you and still refuse what no longer serves you. You can appreciate what someone did for you and still protect yourself from what they do now. You can honor the good and still walk away from the bad. Gratitude is not supposed to cost you your dignity, your voice, your truth, your peace. If it does, it's not gratitude. It's submission in disguise. Gratitude that grows with you. The right kind of gratitude says, I thank the past, but I don't live in it. I honor the help, but I still choose my path. I am thankful, but I am also powerful. I am not here to stay small in the name of politeness. Gratitude that doesn't grow with you will one day become a prison. And the moment you realize that, you're free.
Break the programming. Reclaim your voice. You've been programmed, not by machines, but by messages, words, habits, repetition. Be thankful. Don't be difficult. Others have it worse. You should be grateful. Stop complaining. Keep your head down again and again and again until it became instinct, until it became your default setting, until you couldn't tell the difference between being grateful and being controlled. But here's the truth. You are not broken. You are not selfish. You are not ungrateful. You've just been conditioned to stay quiet. And now it's time to break the code. Step 1. Recognize the programming. You can't break free from something you don't see. So let's shine a light on it. Ask yourself, when was the first time I was told, be grateful, instead of being allowed to feel disappointed? Who benefits when I stay small, quiet, or obedient? Where in my life do I stay silent out of fear of being seen as ungrateful? What part of me still believes I have to earn love, rest, or respect? These are not easy questions, but they're the start of your freedom. Because awareness breaks illusions. And once you see the cage, you can never unsee it. Step 2. Redefine what gratitude means to you. Strip away the guilt. Strip away the obedience. Strip away the fake smiles. Ask yourself, what does authentic gratitude feel like in my body? What would it sound like if it came from me, not from someone else's expectations? What if gratitude didn't mean settling, but simply recognizing beauty without giving up my power? Redefine it like this. Gratitude is noticing the light without pretending the darkness doesn't exist. Gratitude is honoring what is true, not what is comfortable for others. Gratitude is a moment of presence, not a life sentence of silence. Step 3. Give yourself permission to want more. This might be the hardest part, because no one ever told you that desire isn't a betrayal. So here it is now. You are allowed to want more. More peace, more love, more money, more freedom, more rest, more joy, more space to be exactly who you are. Wanting doesn't make you greedy. It makes you alive. The system told you that dreaming was dangerous, but the truth is, dreaming is how you begin to escape. Step 4. Practice saying no without apologizing. This is your voice's return. Start small. No, I can't stay late. No, I'm not okay with that. No, I'm not comfortable. No, I don't owe you an explanation. And then go bigger. No, I'm not living that version of my life anymore. No, I'm not silencing myself to make others comfortable. No, I'm not staying just because someone once helped me. No, I won't confuse obedience with gratitude ever again. At first, it feels scary, wrong, mean. But that's just the programming screaming on its way out. Step 5. Start speaking the truth you've swallowed. Let it out. All the things you weren't allowed to say because it sounded ungrateful. I hated that job. That relationship was toxic. I felt used. I felt abandoned. I felt invisible. I needed more, and no one cared. These truths are not shameful. They are sacred. And when you finally speak them, you reclaim your dignity. You don't speak them to hurt others. You speak them to heal yourself. Step 6. Reconnect with your inner voice. It's still there, buried under years of shoulds. Whispers like, maybe I'm not as okay as I pretend to be. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. I want to be seen, not just praised. I miss the real me. Start listening again. Journal. Walk in silence. Breathe. Create. Cry. Ask your inner self, what do you want
if no one was watching? What would you say if no one punished you for it? Where would you go if you stopped carrying everyone else's gratitude on your back? Your voice isn't gone. It's just waiting for you to stop apologizing for it. Step 8. Rebuild a life that reflects your voice. Bit by bit, decision by decision, start making choices based on your truth, not your guilt. Choose the job that values you. Choose the friends who honor your no. Choose the city that matches your rhythm. Choose the relationship that doesn't need you to disappear to make them feel secure. You don't need to burn everything down. You just need to stop building your life on silence. The final shift. The old world wanted you to whisper, "Thank you for letting me exist." But the new world you're building starts with, "Thank you. I honor what was, but now I speak." Because the truth is, gratitude without growth becomes guilt. Gratitude without boundaries becomes burnout. Gratitude without voice becomes invisibility. But when you reclaim your voice, you reclaim your power, your path, and your peace.
What happens when you ask for more? You've swallowed the fear. You've broken the silence. You've stood in front of a mirror and whispered to yourself, "I deserve more." Now what? This is the question that haunts people the most. Not if they want more, but what will happen when they finally dare to ask for it? Will you lose everything? Will people turn against you? Will you be punished, shamed, rejected? Or will you find a version of yourself you've never met before? Let's talk about what really happens: the good, the bad, and the liberating. At first, it feels terrifying. The moment you ask for more pay, more space, more truth, more freedom, you'll feel it in your body. Racing heart, sweaty palms, the urge to shrink back, the mental scream, "What are you doing?" This is normal, because for years you were taught that asking equaled selfishness, that wanting equaled disloyalty, that speaking equaled danger. Your nervous system isn't rebelling against the world, it's reacting to old programming. But here's the breakthrough. Fear is a sign that you're crossing a threshold. It means you're doing something new, something brave. And you can feel fear without obeying it. Some people will be uncomfortable. Let's be honest, not everyone will clap when you ask for more, especially the ones who benefited from your silence. The employer who relied on you to overwork. The friend who only loved you when you needed nothing. The partner who grew used to your selflessness. The parent who expected blind loyalty. The institution that demanded obedience over truth. When you change the rules, some people will call you difficult, not because you are, but because you stopped playing easy. Let them feel what they need to feel. You're not here to make others comfortable. You're here to make yourself whole. And yes, some people will leave. Some doors will close. Some relationships will break. But before you panic, ask this: were they truly with me, or with the version of me who never asked for anything? Because if your voice scares them, they were never listening. If your worth threatens them, they were never rooting for you. If your boundaries offend them, they were always benefiting from your lack of them. Let them go, not in bitterness, but in truth. Because what you lose when you speak up is never more valuable than what you gain. You'll surprise yourself. Here's what no one tells you. When you ask for more, even if the world doesn't give it to you right away, you change. You begin to stand taller, speak clearer, walk differently, breathe deeper.
You realize you're capable of things your silence never let you explore. And that moment when you hear yourself say, "Actually, I'm not okay with that," or "I'd like something different," is the moment you meet yourself again. Not the version others molded, but the one that was always inside you, waiting. Sometimes they'll say yes. Not everyone resists your voice. Some people, good people, will listen. You'll ask for a raise and they'll say, "You're right, let's talk." You'll tell a friend what you need and they'll say, "Thank you for telling me. I want to be better." You'll share your dream and someone will say, "How can I support you?" Asking opens doors you didn't even know were there. But the world can't say yes to a voice it never hears. Your standards will rise. The more you ask for more, the more you begin to expect more. And when that shift happens, you no longer settle for half-hearted apologies, conditional love, bare minimum effort, emotional crumbs, performative praise. You stop begging. You start choosing. Your life becomes a reflection of your inner clarity, not your outer fear. And suddenly, what once felt too much to ask, now feels like the bare minimum. You'll inspire others without even trying. There's something magnetic about someone who knows their worth, not arrogantly, but quietly, calmly, unshakably. When you ask for more, your child learns that they can too. Your friend reconsiders their own relationship. Your team starts speaking up in meetings. Your community watches, reflects, and begins to shift. You don't need to preach. You just need to be, because your courage becomes permission for others to wake up. You'll start attracting what matches your voice. Once your inner voice gets louder, your outer world begins to respond. You'll find new opportunities, aligned people, unexpected support, clearer decisions, deeper rest, more freedom. Because energy doesn't lie. When you stop performing gratitude and start living in alignment with your truth, you stop chasing, convincing, or proving. You simply ask, you own, you receive. You still get scared, but you'll stop shrinking. The fear never fully disappears. Every new level of asking comes with uncertainty, vulnerability, risk. But with each ask, you become less afraid of your own power. You learn that fear is not a stop sign, that rejection is not failure, that silence is not peace, that asking is not wrong. It becomes your practice, your muscle, your rhythm, your revolution. You'll begin to trust yourself again. This is the most powerful part. When you ask for more, you send yourself a message. I believe in you. I value you. I trust what you feel. I will not abandon you again. And that feeling of being on your own side is more powerful than anyone else's approval. Because for the first time in a long time, you stop waiting for the world to give you permission and start giving it to yourself. You asked, you spoke, you moved. Now you begin. You didn't ask because you're ungrateful. You asked because you finally realized gratitude shouldn't cost me my dreams. Silence shouldn't cost me my dignity. Comfort shouldn't cost me my calling. So what happens when you ask for more? You change your life, and maybe you change the world.
Redefining gratitude, a tool for growth, not guilt. Let's return to where this began. You were told to be thankful, to smile, to nod, to say yes. You were praised when you were quiet, rewarded when you didn't ask for more, applauded when you settled. And somewhere along the way,
You forgot the difference between being grateful and being small. But not anymore. You've walked through the layers now. You've faced the trap, the guilt, the silence, the fear. And now, at the end of this journey, it's time to rewrite what gratitude truly is. Not as a tool of guilt, but as a tool of power. Gratitude is not the opposite of ambition. Let's destroy the lie right here. You can be grateful and still want more. They told you that desire cancels gratitude, that hunger means you don't appreciate what you have, that dissatisfaction means you're spoiled. But the truth is, gratitude is not the end of growth, it's the foundation. You don't reach for more because you hate what you have. You reach because you know you were made for expansion. Your gratitude becomes fuel, not a cage. Gratitude is not the enemy of change. Too often, gratitude is weaponized to keep people stuck. Be thankful for your job. Be thankful for your relationship. Be thankful for the way things are. But what they're really saying is, don't change anything. Don't challenge anything. Don't grow. Here's what real gratitude says. I appreciate where I am, but I won't stop here. I honor the past, but I don't live in it. I give thanks for the lessons, and I'm ready for the next chapter. Gratitude should never require you to betray your future. Gratitude without boundaries is not holiness, it's surrender. You were told that being endlessly grateful makes you good, humble, kind, loving, holy. But what is holiness if it costs you your voice? What is kindness if it makes you disappear? What is humility if it keeps you in pain? Gratitude is not meant to turn you into a doormat. It's meant to make you aware of your power without arrogance. Because you don't honor the divine by shrinking. You honor it by living fully. Gratitude is not a chain to the past. Yes, maybe someone helped you. Maybe they saved you. Maybe they were there when no one else was. And for that, you can hold gratitude in your heart. But that does not mean you owe them your future, you owe them your silence, you owe them your identity, you owe them your dreams. Gratitude is a thank you, not a contract. You can move forward without resentment. You can evolve without apology. You can love without losing yourself. Gratitude is not about comparison. Another lie. You should be grateful, others have it worse. As if pain has to be ranked, as if injustice must be measured, as if you must suffer in silence because someone else is suffering louder. No. Your experience is valid. Full stop. Gratitude based on comparison is not gratitude. It's emotional gaslighting. You don't have to minimize your truth just because someone else has a different one. Gratitude is awareness, not obedience. At its core, gratitude is this: I see the good, I name it, I honor it. Not, I see the good, so I ignore the bad. Not, I see the good, so I'll stay silent. Not, I see the good, so I'll endure the rest. Awareness is the true heart of gratitude, the ability to see both, what's working and what's not. And then choose growth with love in your heart, not guilt on your back. Gratitude is not about others approving of you. You don't need to perform gratitude to earn respect. You don't need to smile through pain to make others comfortable. You don't need to say thank you for things you never asked for. Because real gratitude is quiet, soft, internal, true. It's the way your heart says, I don't take this for granted. I see the beauty in this. I'm present with what is. You don't owe anyone a performance. You owe yourself authenticity. Gratitude that grows with you. Let your gratitude evolve. What you were thankful for at 20 might no longer serve you at 30. The beliefs that helped you survive may now be keeping you small. The relationships that once healed you may now be holding you back. It's okay to outgrow the very things that once saved you. You can say, thank you, and I'm letting go. Thank you, and I'm rising now. Thank you, but I won't stay here anymore. That's not betrayal. That's maturity. A new definition of gratitude. So now let's rewrite it. Gratitude is the ability to honor where you've been without abandoning where you're meant to go. Gratitude is not a prison, it's a path. Gratitude is not submission, it's sovereignty. Gratitude is not about what you owe, it's about what you see and how clearly you walk forward because of it. You can bow your head in thanks and still lift your eyes to the horizon. You can be thankful and still ask for more. You are free now. This journey has brought you through discomfort, doubt, and awakening. You've questioned the scripts. You've faced the trap. You've remembered your voice. You've asked for more. You've walked away. You've stood tall. And now you're here. You're no longer the person who stayed quiet to be liked. You're no longer the one who confused guilt with grace. You're no longer the one who thought wanting more made you ungrateful. You're someone new, someone free. And for that, be grateful. Truly, finally, fully.